it's kind of, I didn't think I looked that bad, Richard. Come on. So he's just trying to keep the audience from being afraid or.
I always do that for the opening. So they see that it's sponsored by Wooten Financial Group.
Oh, you had, okay.
Yeah. I mean, Cindy, you don't even know who you're sponsored by.
I know who I'm sponsored by. Chris and I are like that.
Are you proud of me for not jumping in? This is the first time I
Yes.
haven't just jumped in. I'm
so
waiting for my introduction.
Proud of yourself.
I'm going to go take a nap, though, because this seems like it's going to take a while you figure out even who your sponsors are.
No, it's Chris Wooten. I know it's Chris Wooten.
Okay.
Well, it's not him. It's the Wooten Financial Group.
Okay.
That's very important.
Chris Wooten is.
How long have you been doing this radio show?
He's the head guy. Years. Just years.
What I love is she talks about Chris so much when she does the sponsorship. I always feel like everyone that works there doesn't exist. It's like they suck. Everyone sucks, but Chris there.
So people are going to be pulling up going, Psst, I'm looking for Chris.
Yeah.
That's right.
Only Chris.
Well, he signs the checks, so, I give credit to that guy.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I guess you're now, it's not a surprise or anything that.
We haven't said who I am. Nobody said Bob Smiley. So you can still.
I'm
you can
getting
be the
ready
one.
to.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay, drum roll please. Okay. Wait, is this still?
Just ignore everything going around you. Stay focused. You're a professional.
He's trying to show me.
I'm not showing you anything. I'm showing everybody else. I'm showing the world what you look like.
He's broadcasting simultaneously.
Yes.
Oh, my
On his own.
simulcast. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, so today we have Bob. All right.
That was
No, I mean I give you the
Ladies
best.
and gentlemen,
I give
please
you the
welcome to the
best
mic.
introductions, flowery, ridiculously, shameless promotion. When I have you on, describing you coming on, world-renowned Christian comedian.
You used a lot of words I had to look up this last time.
I know.
Yeah.
I knew
So,
you.
And I did notice all your publicity photos for today were photos from about 10 years ago.
yeah, we've got to get an updated photo because,
That one of
the one with me in the Incredible Hulk T-shirt and the Dukes of Hazzard
right.
patches on my blue jeans.
And
I was in 4th grade, Cindy. It is time to
I had
get
to-
an update.
I had to buy him a cheeseburger or something after it was over because when I put my arm around him, it was like I shook hands with myself and I went, Bob, you are too skinny.
So I was super skinny the first time I came on and did the show.
Yeah.
Because I was going through a lot, and so I just didn't eat. And I wasn't sleeping, and I guess, sleep and food
No eating?
is important. I don't know. Study's not, completely out. But, I was super skinny. So here's what I'm bringing up. So I posted a video on TikTok, of an old time, something from that era. And I posted that clip, and one of the worst comments, because I love reading terrible comments about me, and it said, "Holy crud, you used to look good. You've aged like milk." I was like, okay, that's pretty bad. That's you've aged like milk. What age is worse than milk? So
I don't know because
it was
usually
slam.
that's chunky and you weren't chunky at all.
No, I wasn't chunky at all. But I think that was their point.
age like
is that I've become chunky.
No, you were not. You are not. You've been working out.
First of all, you said you were not.
You were not.
No, you were not.
You were chunky.
Little...
I don't ever remember you being chunky because you always worked out.
Yeah.
And also, all of a sudden, Bob came in. And he came in like, so what's going on, everybody? And you had all these lumps on you. Now, that was chunky, but but you were.
I did bulk up right before I got married.
You did?
And then,
Let it all
my
go?
lovely and talented wife reminded me that I don't have to do that anymore because we're married. So the treadmill got back to being a clothes hanger. And,
Yes. Oh, yes.
and I didn't have to do all that stuff anymore.
That's
not
wonderful.
true. I work out. I worked out this morning. I got up early so I could get up at the crack of 9:30 so I could hit the gym before I came and did this world-winning. Is it a radio show? I still don't know what it is. I don't.
She
It's a
doesn't even
live
know.
live stream.
Okay.
And you don't only have to work out for this part up here. That's all you have to do. And
Oh, I've got Muppet legs down here. I've got Kermit legs. You don't want to see those. So
do you know I got
I
this
stay
t-shirt.
radio interview shape. That's
Look at the T-shirt. What I have on.
No, your hair's covering it.
Oh,
Here
sorry.
we go. Show every.
Welcome to
Hawkins. Why would you couldn't find a John Chris T-shirt to wear just to really rub it in my face?
No, I knew he was going to think that I went to some concert and saw Tim Hawkins. That's his big competitor, his big rival.
And one of my best friends.
And one of your best friends.
Okay.
But y'all are great because you always try to outdo the other one. And,
Yeah.
And so, but I didn't realize that. It was just clean. It wasn't on the floor. And so I got it and put it on. And I was going over here and I went, oh, welcome to Hawkins. Hawkins, Tim Hawkins. So he'll think I went to one of his concerts, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So I want to explain
We're very
that.
similar, though. He just bought a brand new tour bus to replace his old one, and I just got a scooter. So we're both having a pretty good year. Yeah.
That's great. I know you
I
are
could
so
see Bob
supportive.
touring in a smart car.
Yeah.
One of those little snub-nosed smart cars.
Yes. I can see-
I've been doing little mini tours in Louisiana. There's a guy there that does a lot of, he puts together shows during the week, so it's great. And so there's a rental-car place right up from my house. And so I jog up there because I'm not going to drive up there because I have to leave the car. So I jog up there. It's about 1.5 miles. I get the car, and then I go and I do my 4-day run. And then I drive it back, and I usually get back in the middle of the night. So I have to drop it off and then jog back to the house. And whenever I first went, they gave me a big, huge truck, and they were like, but then they saw how many miles I was putting on it. So by the third time, they gave me this little smart car kind of thing. It wasn't an actual smart car. It was like something, it ran on clown farts, I think, basically. Can I say that? Can I say the word clown?
sure. Go ahead.
And I think it had a lawnmower blade underneath it. Like it was the little smallest thing. And so I literally like, and I was touring with a band that did have a tour bus. And so we pulled up, and we do have a great photo on Facebook of the big, huge, nice tour bus. And then I'm in my little, little car just standing
I
there.
always felt that people were like, where do you even buy smart cars? I honestly, for a good moment, I thought you had to be disabled to be eligible to buy those cars.
Oh, really?
Because I was like, you never see them at car lots. You never see like a smart car, dealer. And so I was like,
Smart cars are the baby pigeons of the bird world. I just realized
but
that.
you know what I'm talking about?
I know exactly what you're doing. I've never seen a baby pigeon, and I've never seen a smart car for sale.
Yeah, it's
Because
like
usually you drive them until they just fall apart, right? Or you hit a bump and it falls
I don't even know
apart.
where they come from, and that's why
I've never thought about that. Where do you buy a smart car?
that's why I always thought you had to be like
I'm not smart enough.
you have to
have
be a
smart
disabled person to apply. I thought it was something special, like, oh, you qualify. They send you. You know how like when you hit like 55, you get
Yeah.
all of a sudden you get all this AARP stuff.
I
It's
don't
like-
know.
Well, I meant like that kind of thing.
He looked over at
or
me.
like when you get in accidents, they're like you get insurance stuff
Yeah.
all the time, and then it's like I guess if you qualify for a smart car, they'll let you know.
They'll give you. I never thought about that. So that's a good question for the listeners. Like, where do you get a smart car? I've never seen one on a car lot. The guy who lives across the street from me has a used car salesman. Not
I mean, I'm looking it up right now. I'm pretty sure.
We're gonna find out really quick.
It's got to be something like Sewell or
Yeah.
something.
Well, you can
someplace
buy
like
them used. So I'm talking about new. I'm talking
Brand
about
new,
brand new
smart car. Maybe it comes in the trunk of another car. And so you buy like
Yeah.
a Chrysler, and then you open the trunk, and it's like, oh, this one came with a smart car, and you give
Yeah.
it to a family member.
That would be a great
I
marketing
don't know.
thing.
That actually is.
Listen, I'm just so sorry that I missed all last week, but I was so happy that you had Bob playing retroly. Is that a word, retroly? I don't think so. But
It
anyway,
doesn't matter. Nobody's listening, so you can say. I mean, I think
Listen.
that's forgottedly.
I'm going to get 34 calls. So,
Like even you go to their website, they're not selling you a car.
oh, for crying out loud. Now, see what you got him off
They're
of
just-
this
The
too.
website just says, "Look in the trunk."
Well, no, it just says like, look at all these cool technologies we're developing, and then it didn't say buy a
You
car.
can't buy one.
It didn't say where to buy
Where do
it,
you buy a smart car?
and not used.
Yeah, not used.
I don't know. In China? I don't know.
That's so crazy. I never
You
thought
order
about
it.
that.
You order it from China. I
Yeah.
bet that's how you do it. My
Oh, here we go. It's starting.
Here we go.
Oh, there we
Can
go.
anybody do an impression of a frog? Cindy.
I, when the last time I was here and I had such a horrible voice, I had, as long as I talked in a lower register, but it all sounded like this.
Yeah.
So, yes, you've got the Cindy Cochran show. And so it was terrible. So people I'm better. I'm so much better now. But I got to tell you, I'm on so many steroids. Are you waving at people on your
I was waiting
computer?
for a question. You brought me in here to interview me, and I was
Okay.
just sitting here waiting. And then people are asking me questions, and I was like, "Well, maybe I could do an interview with them while I'm waiting for you to ask me a question."
Would you turn that around?
Go
Let me see what they're
ahead.
asking. No.
This is the person who's not interviewing me, and so
Okay. Did you tell me I was on Johnny Carson?
yeah,
Oh.
she was on Johnny Carson.
Okay, good. Okay, we got that out of the way now. Anyway, so I'm on so many steroids and antibiotics and stuff like that. So steroids make you mean, and if I come off like I'm not being sweet to you, Bob,
No,
let
I
me
knew
know.
I knew that because when I called you this morning to
Yes.
say, "Hey, let's talk about these topics," which is a huge joke because I knew we'd never get to them, but I was like, "Let's talk about these." You were a little snappy,
Yeah,
which you're a sweetheart, but like you said things, like my parents were too married. Like I don't know why you would call me that, but they definitely were married. So you were a little.
All right. Update. Smart cars are not available in the United States to purchase.
told you he's going to be sad.
Well, it's a good question. And I know
Okay.
I know the
Yeah,
audience
somebody
is,
says, nope, I can't read that. Never mind. It looked like it was going to be a really good reply, but
Okay, so Bob,
Hey,
tell
Cindy.
me about the last concert you had. Oh, you talked about being in Louisiana, but you're going to have an amazing thing happen to you that we're going to bring up later in the show. So it'll keep everybody wondering and waiting because this is the coolest thing I've ever heard of. He let me know, and it's been so hard for me not to start calling my 34 people that are listening and tell them what you said because it is very cool.
okay.
In fact, Samuel, I should have, if I'd known, I could have woken him. I could have woke him up and he would listen to this because what you're getting ready to do is just extremely.
Samuel's never mowed the lawn before? Like, is that what you were talking about?
No, about I can't
Oh.
say it because it's a secret. It's not a secret, but it's just something that's just very cool. And you do have to listen to the end of this program because we're going to talk about it. Eventually, we'll talk about it. But right now, we need to talk about you went to the comic
Oh, the CCA, the Christian Comedy Association.
CCA.
CCA.
I like that. Okay.
So it's basically all Christian comedians, like we all get together once a year. It's people that do sold out theaters to comedians who don't really have a career and they do like internet radio interviews at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. So you've got like all different kinds of careers and stuff. And we all get together and we, it really is about kind of encouraging one another. There's still some, this is how you write a joke or this is how you post stuff on social media or, there's some helpful seminar kind of stuff, but mainly it's about hanging out. And you get to see all these comedians that you don't get to see. The guy who led our worship was Paul Aldridge. Did I ever tell you about the first Christian comedian I ever heard ever?
No.
Okay, I'll make this quick. But I was at Abilene Christian University. Can't put a price on Christian education, but
No.
they billed me. And I was my sophomore year in high school or in college, and I'd done stand up one time for my fraternity because if they said if I did stand up, I wouldn't have to pay the dinner fee for me and my date to go to their banquet. So we were having a frat banquet. They called it a grub. And they were like, Smiley, if you do stand up, you won't have to pay. So my first actual paid, I got $86 because it was $86 for me and my date to go. So I did
Wow.
stand up, and this girl, like a couple weeks later, comes up to me and she hands me a cassette tape, and she's like, "Hey, you should be a Christian comedian. This is a guy named Paul Aldridge, and you should check it out because I think you could do this stuff." And so I got the cassette tape. I put it in my boom box because that's how old I am. And I started, we lived in a duplex. We were renting a duplex. And so I was cleaning the garage and I start listening to this guy. And it's clean and it's funny. And I can hear that the church is pretty big that he's performing at. And then the tape flips over. So I have to go over and actually manually flip it over, but it runs out. So I flip it over and I do. But here's what I didn't know. On the other side of the cassette tape was George Carlin's 7 words you can't say on TV bit, which is a famous comedy bit.
Yes.
But I wasn't allowed to listen to George Carlin, so I didn't know the difference between Paul Aldrich and George Carlin. And so all of a sudden, I'm in there cleaning the garage in my duplex, and I'm like, whoa, the second half of this guy's show got dark. And then I'm trying to justify it because I still think it's him. And I'm like, okay, wait a minute. So he is saying you can't say these words, so I guess that's good. But man, he's saying them a lot. And then I was like, what kind of church is this? Because I knew it was in California.
Oh, yeah.
And I
so-
was like, so it kind of makes sense. But I was like, so that was my first intro into what a Christian comedian was. I thought your first half had to be super clean and funny, and the second half you could just get dirty and raunchy and stuff like that. But anyway, fast forward, 24 years later, and I'm hanging out in the room with Paul Aldridge and all these other guys that I grew up watching, and we're all just hanging out and doing stand-up. And you would love it because we slam each other like crazy, in Christian love.
Fun. Well, yes, in Christian love.
But
Bless
it's-
your heart.
There was a sound guy running the board because we had it at a church, and the sound guy, because there's a guy named Mike James, and he got up the first night because we all do open mic night. He got up the first night, and he was like, "I'm married way out of my league." Oh gosh, sorry, I'm embarrassed. I'm saying that with Bob Smiley sitting in the room here. Yeah, I'm married way out of my league. And of course, the place goes nuts, because I'm sitting there with Sarah, and who's gorgeous. And so,
Yes, she is.
So I was like, okay, I'm gonna tag him back. And so later, they were this lady was doing a seminar, and she asked me to get up and talk about how to get bookings and stuff, like how to get your name out there. And so I jump up there and I give a very serious answer about how to, get bookings and get your name out there and stuff. And she was like, "Wow, thank you, but we're comics, so we're always usually being funny." So I go, "Man, sorry, that wasn't a very funny answer. It was kind of like a Mike James set. It's just not funny at all." And of course, the place goes nuts. But the sound guy was sitting back there with Mike, and he looked at me. He's like, "Oh my gosh! Like, I can't believe he said that. Like, because he's not used to comics."
Right.
And Mike was like, "No, he deserved to tag me back. Like, it's not gonna be the last. Like, so it was so
It's
much
only
fun
begun.
because we love each other and we encourage one another and we attack each other every chance we get. So
But isn't that hard? Isn't it difficult to do that in front of a bunch of comedians, especially when you see them going, this, or they're writing things down?
Yeah.
So, so you don't think that they wouldn't do anything like that, like maybe borrow
no,
some
nobody
of your,
steals.
no one steals. Okay.
No one steals. That is death for comedy.
Okay.
If you steal something, oh my goodness, no, you'll never work again because and with the internet, it's so easy to prove like when somebody does a bit, and so if somebody's coming up, now we all have similar concepts and so sometimes, in fact, Hawkins and I, we've written the exact same joke and realized we came up with the same idea. We both saw a commercial and we had the same idea, and then it's basically whoever gets it out there first. So there are some similarities of how we write. So sometimes we do, but we're not stealing each other's stuff. But yeah, it's known in the Christian comedy world and in the comedy world, you do not steal people's material.
Oh, I'm glad about that.
But it is a tough crowd. Like we get up. Oh, and my wife did stand up for the very first time.
She did.
Yeah, because you have to sign up, and I had already done 2 shows the 2 nights before leading up to the conference in that area. So people had already gone to my full shows. I was speaking. I was on stage a lot. And so Sarah was like, "Don't sign up. Let everybody get a chance to do an open mic night." And I was like, "Yeah, that's fine. I don't really want to do anything." And the guy came up to me and he goes, "Hey, last year you got up and you did a new bit that didn't do well. And it was great for all the new comics to see you up there struggling with a bit," which was totally true.
Oh my goodness.
Here's the funny part. I did this new bit that I struggled through, but it's open mic night, so you try stuff out. And it was terrible. And I got off the stage and I sat down and Sarah was with me again. And I was like, "Okay, I know that went bad, but that's a good premise. And it's now my closer. It's what I close with for my show." So it was, and so the guy was like, so I want you to sign up. And I said, I'd love to, but Sarah won't let me. So the guy looks across the room, this guy named Chris Roop, and he's like, "Sarah, I'm signing Bob up for open mic night." And she looks up and she's like, because Sarah's so loved by that whole community. So I actually think she was signing autographs when she looked up. And she goes, "Only if you put me down too." So I'm like, oh. And so he writes her name down for the next night. And so I was like, So we get back to the hotel. And I was like, he really wrote your name down. And she was like, yeah, I'm halfway through my set writing it right now. And I was like, what?
She's writing
And
her
so she
set.
got up the next night and absolutely just killed. Now, it was mostly making fun of me. Like, it was
Oh,
all
what a-
stuff about me.
What a
But,
shock.
and which, of course, the whole, like, every
Right.
comic there was loving it and stuff. But she did an ad lib. So, Cleto Rodriguez is a really good friend of mine, comedian. He got up and he was sharing testimony earlier in the day. And he was talking about how we're built for community. We need to be able to lean on each other. He said, the darkest moment of my life, I really was just on the ledge and didn't know what to do. And I called Smiley. And I called him because I knew he would care and I knew he'd take my phone call no matter what. And he said, here's the weird thing. Bob was getting ready to propose to Sarah, but he took my phone call and for about 45 minutes, like, talked me off the ledge and talked me through this really dark time. And he, so he's sharing this testimony with the idea of, like, we're all built for community. So that night, Sarah gets up and she's like going through her like stand up, and she goes, and Bob and I have been married for 5 years. It would have been 6, but Cleto kept calling, and the place went nuts. It was like the best ad lib.
Oh, that's
I was sitting in the back
great.
going,
Oh,
I don't think I have to work anymore. I
Yeah,
think
let's-
I can send her out on the road and,
that's amazing.
Let
'cause
her
you
pay the
thought,
bills.
You thought it was going to be Xander that you
I thought it
sent
would
out.
be, or Coulter.
Or
Coulter
Coulter,
was the one
yeah.
that got up and did. He actually opened for me. Coulter's my oldest son, for
Right.
those listening. But he got up and opened about 12, 14 times. And the first 2 times he got up and he killed. And it was a great crowd because everybody was coming to see me and they knew he was my son. And so when he got off stage, I was like, that's not how it's supposed to go, man. You're supposed to bomb, But he got up and he was only doing I think he did 8 minutes the first time. And it was good. Like,
Now,
his writing style was good.
So he was writing the stuff for himself.
Yeah, he wrote his own stuff.
Did he put it past you first before?
Yeah,
you
because
got
when he
out there?
came and asked to open for me, he knew my first question was going to be, what do you got? So he came and he was like, hey, if there's a show, I think I want to open for you. And I was like, what? And he goes, yeah, I've been thinking about it for a while. And I was like, well, okay, what are you going to write about? And that's all the time we have for now.
Oh dear.
Okay.
As we wake up from the
I'm
stream.
sorry.
Well, who is it? Who is it?
Huh?
Who is it?
It's an appointment
Cindy got a phone call.
that it's the AC guy. The AC went out just before I left,
okay.
and Sam said we have no ACs. So I went, okay, well, I'll see you in a week. Just call me whenever it comes back on. And so he said the guy's going to come tomorrow, and this guy keeps calling me or texting me that when he's going to be there.
Yeah.
So, but my son-in-law Tim, Christy's husband, does all that stuff all day, and so he was going to call Sam and said, "I'll come try and rescue you off before tonight, before it gets too bad."
Okay.
So anyway, that's who that was. And if it was somebody more interesting, I probably would have put him on live and said, "Okay, what do you want?" And then and talk to him because I didn't want to interrupt at all.
Yeah, let's get back to the story. Anyway, the dog died. It was really sad.
So sad.
So I learned something every time I come to do this show. We'll call it a show. Because most radio shows that I do,
Yes?
they have a silence your cell phone policy.
Oh,
But
Well-
no?
we
Well-
don't get a lot of calls in, so we just kind of leave it open like that. So,
You should have seen when she got an Apple Watch for Christmas
Oh,
because she didn't know how to turn it off, and she was just yelling at it. And,
I say,
and
"Shut
I just just don't ever bring that again. And
I haven't.
The phone thing, I don't know. She's an elderly person, so I don't want her it's like, would I tell her to turn off her life alert?
yeah. Yeah.
Right, Cindy?
did
Right, Cindy?
yes.
My dad
Yes,
got
yes.
one. He got an Apple Watch, and he was like, he got so into it. But he also thinks it's all ridiculous. So he
Well-
called me one day, and he was like, "Oh, you'll be happy I closed my poop ring." I was like, "There's not that ring." Because he was like, "I got to stand every hour. I got to exercise. I got to do all this, because you got to close your rings. You know about all that?"
No.
Oh, you
But if I at 2 o'clock in the morning, it did that, and I look up and it's going stand up, and I'm going, what? I didn't know how to break it. I didn't know how to just crush it. I was so mad that it woke me up. So I don't wear it a lot during the day. I try and wear it, but how many times?
I just told her not to bring it here.
Yeah,
No,
don't bring
but
it in.
But what's good is that
I think you should say the same thing about the cell phone. Go ahead.
I can't. I feel like that. You realize how many people like depend on Cindy.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So
3.
and she brings me. Well, she brings me lunch, so I have to be able to like. Okay,
That is true. You have
I-
hedged your bet. You bring lunch to both of us
yeah,
anytime.
and I'll allow you to have your phone because you. bring me
and
lunch.
I've got like a $200 deficit in my account. So me bringing y'all lunch is really so sweet. I wish you would,
Well,
acknowledge that.
That's a great segue. If people are listening, they can donate to the Cindy Cochran Show and sponsor the program. There's a link below to donate right now to support Cindy.
That's true, because then I can keep y'all in the
and my
sandwiches.
Venmo is Bob-Smiley-3. Can we give that out?
Yeah, of course.
If you've enjoyed
Bob.
today's
yeah,
interview,
Yes.
well, let's not call it an interview.
well, because you keep talking about this one thing that you did, and I want to get on to other things that you've done.
What have I
You are
done?
so busy.
You want to
When
hear
I
the
try and
worst show I've
call
done
you-
this year?
Oh,
Yeah,
what-
I do.
Okay.
Okay.
So actually, it was last year, but it's so bad. So I'm still playing catch up from 2020 because I had 0 shows.
Right.
And there's only so much Uber Eats delivery, that I can do. And so we're still playing catch up on bills and all this stuff. And so I'm taking every show. And so I get booked. This third party company books me to do it just sends me the address. And it tells me that it's for a group of people.
Knock 3 times.
And
Yeah,
then
okay.
as I get like 2 days before, then they tell me it's for a nursing home. I'm like, okay, it's during the day. It's at 12:30. So I drive to this nursing home. I get out and I'm like, this is where my career's at. Like, I have to do this. I need this paycheck. And when I pull up, I realize it's not a nursing home. It's for Alzheimer's patients. So little bit of like background. My great grandmother had Alzheimer's. I never can say it. Alzheimer's.
Alzheimer, yeah.
So I actually moved in with them for 4 months to take care of her until they could move into a assisted living place to take. So totally passionate about this and what the
Yes.
disease does to people. So now I'm actually a little even more encouraged. Like, okay, because it was for the staff. And so I'm like, okay, this would be good because I can speak to this.
Right.
Because for 4 months, I was like the caretaker. And so I walk in and the lady's like, can I help you? And I was like, yeah, I'm Bob Smiley. I'm here to do a comedy show. And she goes, crud. And I was like, what? And she goes, I'm sorry. And I forget the lady's name, but she said, did so-and-so book you? And I was like, well, it came through a third party, but yeah, that was my contact. And she goes, well, she's got COVID. So we thought since she had COVID, we would have this hour off. So now all the staff members think they're getting an hour off where they normally have to listen to a speaker on this Friday. And she's like, let me gather everybody up. And so she goes and she gathers everybody up in what they call the great room, which is the big, huge open room. And she's like, I said, okay, where's the speaker or the microphone? And she's like, oh, there's no speaker or microphone. And I was like, okay, but I still have to wear my mask? And she was like, oh, yeah. So now they bring in the staff, which is 12 people. There are 14 round tables. They sit one person per table spread out in this great room.
Oh, no.
All have masks on. They're all looking at their phone because they don't know who I am. They don't want,
Right.
She puts me over in the corner. Here's the other thing. The last person that comes in brings all the patients. All the patients. There's about 35 patients. So they all come in, and I was like, are they going to be in here too? And they were like, yeah, but they just mill around, and there was like a whole wall full of books, and there was like a crayon, arts and craft place and stuff like that. And she's like, yeah, they'll just... So now I'm doing a show for these 12 people sitting individually at these tables with my mask on. And now there's like 35 people just wandering around. And it was like The Walking Dead. Like I'm just like literally, and I'm trying to do stand up, but also have some encouraging words for them. And all of a sudden I see them looking over my shoulder, like all of them. And so I turn and I look, and there was this sweet elderly lady but she had long, stringy black hair. She looked like she was. Have you seen the movie The Ring?
Yes, yes.
Okay, she looked like
yes.
that. And she had walked up and almost put her chin on my shoulder. And so I couldn't hear her sneak up on me. And I turned and I go, nah. And it scares me, which actually got one of the 3 laughs I got that day. And she just stares at me because I was in her path.
Oh.
She had a constant path that she walked, and I was in her path, so she wasn't going to move. And so I jumped out of the way, and so the rest of my show, I had to try to stand in the corner I was supposed to stand in, but when she came around, I had to step over and let her go. It was the worst.
my
But here's the
word.
best part of it. So I'm realizing nobody's listening, nobody's like, and there's this one patient in a wheelchair, and she's rolling around in between the tables and stuff. And I go, okay, guys, I got one more story for you, and then I'll be done. And the lady in the wheelchair all of a sudden stops. She goes, good, because I'm tired of this. And I was like, you know what? So am I. So am I. It was the best heckle because she wasn't really being mean.
No.
I mean, she didn't know what was going on. She was probably wondering why this like redheaded kid was up, talking so
Right.
much. And it was such a heckle from the heart. Like, it was the best. And I was like, me too.
That
me too. But
is
I'm going to tell this
great.
one more story. So yeah, it was
And how do you end? How do you end speaking to that diverse of an
did it,
audience?
like, have you read the part in the Bible where there's weeping and gnashing of teeth?
Yes.
I had a lot of that when I walked out to my car.
So
No,
you feel
here's
like-
the deal. I did that show at noon, and then I drove to, I think it was Livingston, and did a show that night for a church, and it was killer. So it was kind of a great way to like end.
Right.
Like, okay, I'm gonna go bomb at this nursing home, but then I'm gonna go like have a really good show. So
that was
But yeah, it was so
kind
bad.
of cruel to, especially with the staff. The staff, I would have to go speak. Now I know I'm not trying to take anything away from what you were doing because what you were doing was great, I'm sure. But they would have me come in to do a positive thinking thing at schools when they would be in session for like the last few weeks after the kids had left.
Oh, yeah.
And they had to stay there, and they had to have in teacher or in whatever it was. But
I
they
just know in school suspension.
in teacher training. They were doing
You've met my
training.
kids.
Yeah,
You know I know about in school suspension.
Yes.
Oh, you're
No.
talking about in service.
In service,
In
that's
service.
it. In service. So anyway, they booked me to do that. So I go in there and I said, you know what I just figured out, first of all, is that they come and they get me to come do this, and they don't tell me that they're going to put me right before lunch. And I know it's hard enough to get everybody to listen to me while you're cognizant, but I know this is going to be really tough. So I'm going to give everybody permission to go ahead and close their eyes, lean back on the chair, and just go to sleep. It's fine, because where I'm going to be speaking to is your subconscious. Now, of course, you'll never know what I put in there if you
Yeah.
do this, but it's okay. You just go ahead and it was horrible. They
drift.
did not want, and they didn't even have cell phones at that time to look at. So what they were doing was just writing and they're reading the paper. You put their feet up on it. It was horrible, and everything that the students do during the day, I guess, with them. But I think I think the fact that you did that was great because you had all that background, that experience with working with someone
Yeah.
that was like that,
Yeah.
and then to be able to, you probably would have had more fun playing to them, especially.
Yeah,
them.
it's a funnier story if I tell you like I really bombed, but people sat down and the staff was on their phone, but then after a little bit they actually started listening and they started laughing. So I really kind of won them over. But when I started talking about like living with my great grandmother and all the little things that I would do and stuff, they really like perked up. So I really did go and was able to encourage them.
That's
you know.
good.
So sometimes it ends up well. I did a prison. I'm going to be real generic because I'm not supposed to talk about where I was or anything, but I did a.
Wait a
I did
minute, they told you
prison.
not to talk about. Where
You're not
you
supposed
were?
to say what like places that you go to. I think.
Really?
Yeah. Anyway, I was at this prison, and I was supposed to be going to this different area, which was for a different group of prisoners, and it got thrown on me that, oh no, it's going to be for like the worst of the worst, And so they took us out, and I mean, everything was like little individual cells with the big bars and everything. And we were supposed to start, like, let's say in 10 minutes. It took 40 minutes because each prisoner was in its own individual cell. And to move them, you have to move each one individual because you can't have them all out at the same time unless you have them in this one, like, room. And so they had to move them individually. And I'm just standing there, and they have to walk through this little hallway, which is where I was standing. And then they put them in this big cage, and then I did stand up to them for the cage. And as they're walking by me, they're all like looking at me, and they're like annoyed. One guy walked by, and he goes, "You better be good." And I was like, I got to be better than your wall. Like, that's all you have is to stare at a wall all day. Because they're not let out unless there was some special event. And I was like, what do you mean I better be good? Like, this is an hour that you get out of your little tiny cell and stuff. And they were brutal. They were shouting mean stuff at me. One guy got up, and the warden, like, not the warden, but the main guy that was in charge, knew what he was doing. So it wasn't a dangerous thing, but I guess he motioned, but he was going to get up and go to the bathroom. But he comes into the little hallway that I'm staying in, walks right by me, and he just walks by and he goes, "You're not good at this." And I'm just, and I'm like, all right, 30 more minutes, waka. And they weren't even looking at me, like they were just totally ignoring me. There was one guy down front, and he was staring at me intently. And so now I'm realizing, like, and I just did this for free. Like, I didn't, like, and it took up all my day, and I had a lot of stuff to do. I'm not trying to make myself, like, but I really was like, how do you not appreciate somebody going
to the trouble?
And they just treated me terrible. And so I got, I looked at my watch, and I was like, you know what, this is not good, and I'm not, like, there's no reason for me to be here. This wasn't even where I was supposed to be that day. It's not even what I agreed to do. And now I'm in this horrible situation. So now I'm like, I don't care. And so I just start, like, not heckling them, but I was like, hey, I just want to thank you, the one dude who's staring at me intently. And then all of a sudden a big group of them started laughing. And I was like, oh, now you're going to laugh. And they were like, it's because he's deaf. And I was like, oh, that's why he's reading my lips. And I was like, and let me guess, you don't think I'm funny either, do you? And he was like, no. And he just shook his head. I was like, oh my goodness, I'm never doing this again. It was so bad.
Know your audience.
Yeah.
You should have had the names of all the guys that they hate.
Yeah.
All the guards that they
even
hate.
The warden got up and was trying to introduce me, and they weren't listening to him either. But here's the kicker. So I finish early because I'm like, look, I'm not gonna, and so I just want to get out of there as quick as possible. But you can't. You have to go and wait because then they have to walk you out. So I'm waiting, and all these guys get up. They're still in the cage, and they all come over the bar, and I'm like, oh, here comes some more heckling and stuff. And they were all like, Smiley, that was great. And I was like, and at that time I didn't care. I was like, no, it wasn't. You weren't listening to me at all. And they were like, no, man, no, it was great. It was really good. And I was like, let me just be honest with you. I'm never coming back here because, like, I told them, I was like, I'm never coming back here because you guys treated me terrible. And they were like, man, don't be that way, man. We just, we liked you. We just, we never get to hang out with each other. And, like I said, I was like, oh man, it was so bad. It was so bad.
But did you ever, had Silence of the Lambs been out before you did this?
This was like, I don't know, 3 months ago.
Oh, for crying out loud.
Yeah, this was recent.
Did you not feel like you were in the middle of Silence of the Lambs?
Oh, it was crazy. And I've had good experiences before.
Yeah.
Which is why I did a whole string of them, and like they just started getting worse and worse and worse. And a lot of it was like scheduling and stuff like that or not, like I didn't know what I was getting into. Where I'd show up and be like, "Oh, this is what we're doing now," and so it was not like I kind of knew what to expect, but it just got worse and worse and worse. But yeah,
That's horrible.
It was really bad.
Okay, are you over it by the time you hit the gate and you're out the door, or
I think I'm going to be over it probably in August.
In August,
yeah.
See, it's funny because you can be so funny and so great and so wonderful, and then
finish your thought. Keep
then
going.
You see the you see the people outside, and one person comes up and goes, "That was the dumbest thing I've ever seen. You really need to work on that." And you dwell on that for the longest time. I'm saying in general, preachers do this.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the teachers, everybody that has to deal with an audience, and if somebody does, say that was terrible,
Yeah.
that's the only thing they think about. But all the other stuff was, talk about how great you are and how wonderful you are. I remember when you were at church at Spring Woodlands, and I'm going to tell where you were,
Okay.
at Spring Woodlands, and you did your thing, your comedy. The
Phenomenal comedy performance
older
is what it's called.
people, the older people, everybody that knew you, it was funny. The kids just loved you. The grown-ups were upset with how loud everything was,
Yeah.
and they're just like, "What is going on? Why he has to be so loud?" And but the kids were just, were there, and it was funny to watch you. You grew so fast and just blew out, and like everybody, and you start seeing that this is really a professional comedian. But there's nothing worse than when comedians go on a show like the Johnny Carson show, and Johnny says,
Hold on, you dropped this name.
Okay,
You dropped his name here.
It didn't
on
bounce
this-
back
yeah.
up. Oh, there you go. Anyway,
She hung out with Johnny Carson, for everybody that doesn't know.
Everybody knows. I've got, they've
When
been
I first
listening.
met her, you were at our church, and
Yes.
I walked into her office, and I was like, wait a minute, why do you have a photo of you with Johnny Carson sitting in the chair next to his desk? And then you had a photo of you and Henry Winkler hanging out. And I was like, okay, I need to hang out with this lady. Like, I
Yeah.
have so much to learn. Turns out I didn't, but
It was
it
very-
was,
What was
it
so
was intriguing
sweet?
at first.
What was so sweet is that a lot of people came in and said, I went to Universal Studios, and I wanted to sit in that chair. They were taking a picture. They had him in a, he was like a cardboard. Johnny Carson was
Yeah.
sitting there, and they took but that's what they thought I had done. And when I said I was on the Johnny Carson show, they thought I was in the audience on the Johnny Carson show. So it made it, difficult to try and convince anybody.
Yeah.
But now nobody knows who he is, so that doesn't matter.
That is
You may be
true.
the only one. Jay Leno has even gotten to where you go like, well, Jay Leno was on the Johnny. I mean, he took over, and
Yeah.
they go like, no, keep going, and then you finally get down to, I don't know who's on. Jimmy
Fallon.
Fallon.
Yeah.
Yes, and so I went to in Dallas. Have you ever been to Believe It or Not thing?
Ripley's?
Yeah, and the Wax
I've been
Museum.
outside, but my dad would never pay for the ticket to go in. But he would stand out there and tell me crazy things.
The Wax Museum, though, it has all the people from the different Tonight Show and all that, and so you go stand next to them and be there, and and then you show that to people, and people go like, you weren't really there, you didn't really
Yeah.
meet him, but when you take a picture of the wax figures, they do. Some of them look so.
Do they really look alike?
stupid.
The only one I've ever seen, I went to a wax museum in Phoenix, so they were all kind of melty. It was during the summer, so it wasn't good. So
Well-
they looked like, it was like a sickly Johnny Carson.
Well, I can't
But did
wait.
they really look real?
Yes, some of them did. When you
Really?
took the picture I don't know what does to it, but it makes it much more realistic.
Okay.
But I think that when you get yours done, make sure you have some kind of say over it,
Yeah.
especially at Madame Tussauds or whatever that.
Yeah, when do you
like-
get to do you get to pick what year? Because if I pick 2018, it would
I
take
wanna
way
be-
less wax than it would now.
Yeah, imagine doing Clint Eastwood right now.
Yeah.
Like one more wrinkle and then we got it. I think.
Yeah.
But that's what I always feel bad is that somebody puts you. It's like the ad for my show. That picture when it was taken, and it wasn't only taken probably 10 years ago, but it was he then took it and said, now I'm going to make you 30. I'll make you look like you're 30 by all the stuff that you can do now, and it's amazing. I don't. It's good though because nobody recognizes you out in public, and
Yeah.
so it's fine. But you will have your statue somewhere someday, I'm sure. But I'm really excited because last time you were here, you kind of made me feel bad about the fact that I hadn't known about the books that you had written.
Oh yeah.
And And of all the great titles that you have, The Average Boy, that's so great.
Yeah, The Adventures
Where'd
of
that come
Average Boy.
from? Where'd that come from? out
So,
of your head?
21 years ago, Focus on the Family got my CD. That's how old the story is. They got my very first CD that came out, and they thought it was really funny, and that it would go to like it would translate to kids, which they didn't know I was out doing youth shows all over the country. So they called me up and they were like, "Hey, this is funny, and we think it's like your material would be funny for kids. Would you ever consider writing? We have a junior high magazine called Clubhouse. Would you ever consider writing a humor article for our magazine?" Well, I never wanted to do stand-up, so that was never a goal in my life. But growing up, I always, like, I read Dave Barry and Patrick McManus, and I read all these, like, humor writers. So one of my bucket lists was I wanted a humor article that I'd written to be published in a magazine. Like, I just won. That was a bucket list. I was going to make that happen before I died. And so when they said, "Would you do that?" I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." So I started writing this story about going back to school, and I was writing this true story about me getting a really bad haircut, but I thought of a cell phone joke, and so I thought, well, if it's about me, I didn't have cell phones when I was a kid, so it can't really be about me, but I really want to use a cell phone joke because it was like it was good for the story. So I just created this character. I just made it a modern day version of me. So I just called him Average Boy, and so they printed. It was supposed to be one article. And so it was like The Adventures of Average Boy, but it actually, I think it said The Adventure of Average Boy, because it was going to be one adventure. And it said, "By Bob Smiley as told to Bob Smiley." So we were even trying to create this character of like, but it was just for one story. But they printed it, and then all of a sudden, Average Boy started getting all this fan mail from junior high kids.
Oh, my goodness.
So they contacted me, and they were like, "Would you consider making this a monthly article?" So I started writing monthly for them. And then that's whenever they realized, like, people were talking a lot. They were getting a lot of emails about The Average Boy from kids. And so they asked me to write a comedy devotion book. So I wrote Devotions for Super Average Kids. And so it's like 30 funny stories. It's things that kids deal with. There's a resolution at the end of each chapter. And then there's devotion questions and scripture for kids to fill out, and, devotion questions to either fill out on their own or to do with their family. And so we put that out as a comedy devotion book for middle school kids. It sold really well. So then
That is awesome.
we put out the second one, Devotions for Super Average Kids, the second book. And so, again, 30 new adventures and stories and stuff, 30 things that kids are dealing with. And then during the pandemic, we started an Average Boy podcast. Do you know what a podcast is?
Yes.
Good, because you're on one. So we started the Average Boy podcast for families to listen to with their kids, and we made them short so they'd be like on the way to the grocery store or on the way to school and stuff. We just decided to try it. We didn't know if families would do it, and we started putting it out in January of 2020. Not realizing that COVID was about to hit. And so COVID hit, and so now families are all
How
at home.
perfect.
They're listening to
Yes.
this. So during COVID, this is the third book, Average Boy's Above Average Year. So it's not a comedy devotional book. It's more like Diary of a Wimpy Kid, only way better. But this book came out in October, I think, of last year. And it's just a fiction book. It's funny. But again, I'm a Christian, so there's a lot of moral dilemmas that he's faced
Right.
with, where he has to, choose whether to do the good
That's
thing or the bad thing. So,
Perfect.
and then that book blew up on Amazon. And so normally you get a book deal, and then about 2 or 3 years later, if your book does well, you get another book deal. And so that book sold out on Amazon. So it went on back order. And so they immediately came to me and was like, "Hey, you want to do a fourth one?" And I was like, "Yeah," because this is Average Boys Above Average Year. So I started actually last week on Average Boys Above Average Summer.
I love to get in your head and see how you figure out what you're going to say and how you structure this. But there's this thing that we've got 1 minute now.
We have 1 minute.
We talked it's so much fun to talk to you. I'm so glad you're here. But I want to know about this Oculus thing that you're doing. I understand about Oculus.
Mm-hmm.
I've played on Oculus, but you are now going to be in England tomorrow.
I'll be in England tomorrow at 3 p.m. doing a virtual comedy show at a comedy club in the metaverse. And I've been doing this for about 2 years now, where I can sit in my office and go to Scotland and do stand-up. And I'm going to England tomorrow. And the Soapstone Comedy Club is actually what started it all. This guy, Aaron, built a comedy club in the virtual world, and everybody flocks to it. And it's so weird because you make what your body wants to look like. So the first time I went in, this huge, gigantic, burly dude like walks up to me, and all of a sudden he goes, "Hey, are you going to tell some jokes? I heard you're really funny." And I was like, did I just meet Mike Tyson? Like, that was the craziest thing. Like, you just don't know. But it is.
Tell everybody how they
stand
can
up for
find out
cartoons.
about it. Hurry, go.
They can go to bobsmiley.com or my Instagram or Facebook account and DM me. Bob Smiley Comic or Bob Smiley Comedy on Facebook.
DM him gently. Okay. Bob, thank you so much. You're amazing.
It's always
it's an
a
honor for you to be here.
Time waster.
And I have to, I have to
I
tell
didn't think you were listening.
all first responders, we love you so much. We love you, first responders. We really do. You are just amazing. So thank you for being so brave. And see you not tomorrow, but the next day. Bye.
Every week, people ask the same two questions. Are they ready to retire? Will their savings last for their lifetimes? Hi, this is Chris Wooten with Wooten Financial Group. Our firm has been in Montgomery County for decades, but the hopes and dreams of the people we serve never change. We help answer these two questions and many more that people have about their uncertain financial future. We have a simple introductory client experience that allows us to get to know the client and includes a few meetings for the client to kick the tires at no charge. We provide a concise, one-page summary that helps the client get a better handle on which questions are the right questions for them. To learn more about Wooten Financial Group's process in helping their clients to a clearer financial future and to see their contact information, visit Cindy Cochran's show page on irlonestar.com/TCCS. Wooten Financial Group is a proud sponsor of the Cindy Cochran Show. Wooten Financial Group is available by phone at 936-449-5952 or visit them on the web at www.wootenfinancial.com. That's www.wootonfinancial.com.
This program is sponsored by the Wooten Financial Group. It is not the intent of Wooten Financial Group to render or offer personalized investment advice or financial planning advice through this radio program or any related website. Wooten Financial Group's participation in this program is limited to providing general information on financial matters and should not be construed as financial recommendation or investment advice. Investment advisory services are offered through Game Plan Advisors, Inc., a registered investment advisor registered with the Securities and Exchange Commission and the state of Texas. Insurance services are offered through Wooten Financial Group, Inc. Game Plan Advisors and Wooten Financial Group, Inc. are affiliated through common ownership, and neither firm is affiliated with The Cindy Cochran Show. No listener should assume that any information presented and or made available on this program serves as the receipt of or a substitute for personalized individual advice from Game Plan Advisors, Wooten Financial Group,